Hi everyone, welcome back. We're here today in the mountains of Northern Idaho with Matt Blackburn, who, if you're into biohacking, you may recognize from his podcast, Mito Life Radio. We're here at his 42-foot growing dome to see what he's got going on here. And this is actually your fourth dome, Matt?
That's correct. I move around a lot.
But he's finally found a home base. So this one is very well established, and we're going to see what he's got growing inside and some of the tips and tricks he's learned along the way.
Welcome to my growing dome. So this is the herb garden. Kind of just learning as we go, honestly. I have a couple helpers up here on the mountain, and I am a novice, and I like researching health stuff, but I don't really like researching garden stuff. So I prefer to just learn by experience. And that goes for all the supplementation and stuff that I've been doing since 2010. But as far as like spacing things too closely, I'm just totally winging it. And I'm sure year after year, I'll just get better and better, learn how to improve things. So right now I'm a bike ride or UTV ride away from the dome here. It's down my driveway, but once I'm living in my bunker right next to the dome here, I'll be able to just walk right over, which will be really nice. So I plan to spend a lot more time in it. I think I'll learn a lot faster that way. We got broccoli, I got catnip for my cats. Different types of basil, all different varieties of onions. There's cilantro back here. So I have cucumbers going, cherry tomatoes, which are probably my favorite thing to grow in the dome. I could just eat pounds of cherry tomatoes. I'm a simple man. Give me tomatoes and lettuce and I'm happy, but cucumbers and everything else makes it more exciting. Tons of strawberries here in the center, various different bell pepper plants, some hot peppers, which I don't like, but mostly sweet peppers, corn, which is I've never seen in person. It's just kind of fun.
This is a great example of companion planting. The beans will fix nitrogen into the soil and use the corn as a trellis, and the corn is a heavy feeder crop, so it actually uptakes a lot of that nitrogen. Matt hasn't opted to put squash down below, but that's what's traditionally used. You can also use watermelon vines as he has here.
Lettuce, which is on its last legs, I've learned kind of fun. You could actually just trim it at the top and it'll just come back up. More broccoli, which is coming up. Lettuce, which actually I just planted using seed tape. Big fan of seed tape. It's kind of like a stupid proof way to plant it with the spacing. So I'm huge fan of lettuce. I can eat a salad every day. So I put several rows here, I think only a week ago, and they're already coming up really quick, I think because of the heat. And we have another blueberry bush, bunch of strawberries, more cherry tomatoes. These are actually turnips, which there's a giant one you can see under here. These are really fun to cook, actually. I have an infrared little toaster, and I've been having fun learning how to prepare those. They taste delicious. Biohacking is a term for basically a way of living where you're merging ancient, what you would call ancestral wisdom, basically that being outside is good for you. So grounding, sunlight, fresh air, whole foods, which is all just common sense, obviously, with modern technology, advancements in technology. These are all some of the things that I interview people on my podcast about, because I just find that people go way too purist and naturalist with human health. And I think there's a balance there to where we don't have to be afraid of everything, and we could actually utilize futuristic technology for our benefit. So it's that idea that modern problems require modern solutions, and the shape, as Buckminster Fuller talked about, just the strength of it. But I think there's also an energetic quality to it as well, that different shapes have different effects. When I stopped living in boxes, I feel like I became more creative, and this is, to me, biohacking. It's in that space of just observing everything in life, taking inventory of everything, and figuring out how you can improve your life by changing your environment, what you're putting in your body. And I think the shape that we're in matters. So I got into pyramids, I got into domes. I'm experimenting with that here on the mountain, where most people know about saunas and hyperbaric chambers and stuff like that. Now you have like these clinics that are popping up, or they have all these stations that you could essentially go in. And I think all of this is needed. I mean, we have bars on every street corner, and alcohol has its place if it's, you know, not overdone, but I think we need more healing technologies available to people. And, you know, this Growing Spaces dome is one of those healing technologies. The two favorite things in this dome are actually the avocado trees for me. So this is a cold hardy avocado, and this is about 2 years old. And when these were transferred from my off-grid property, they were, I mean, they went through a heck of a drive. It was in the truck bed at probably 35 degrees out, and they were not happy when they got here. But as you can see, it's super healthy. It's coming back. We'll go over to the other avocado later and see how healthy it is. But that's the most exciting thing for me, is having fresh avocados up here in North Idaho. Being from San Diego, that's going to be a game changer. So I have Meyer lemon, orange, Caracara orange, key lime, and then it's a grapefruit tree. And you can actually see on this one, the oranges are actually forming quite a few little babies. And all of these trees that I brought over are roughly 2 to 3 years old. Yeah, I think I started with the 33, the second to the biggest one, and I just wanted more space. And that was the main thing. And the ability to have more fruit trees. In this one, I could easily have 6 fruit trees. So, you know, 4 citrus in the center bed, and then an avocado and an avocado in the islands. This is called a musk melon, this giant bush, which is kind of crazy. Haas avocado tree, which is super healthy. When this was brought here, it was actually a stump only to about here. And only in a few months, it's completely sprouted and gone crazy, which is amazing. And people online are telling me you probably won't have avocados for another 4 or 5 years. I think they're pessimistic. I think I'll have avocados in the next year or two. I'm very confident of that. So if you want to bet on it, I'm accepting bets.
With any size of growing dome, it's not required to add any heating or cooling if you're willing to grow with the seasons. But if you want to grow specialty crops, in this case, an avocado or a key lime, you're going to want to add some type of heat if you live in an area where you're going to experience extreme cold during the winter.
This thing in the winter, total game changer. Makes a huge difference. So this thing, it's a Blaze King. It's my favorite wood stove, especially with the warming plate, so you can set your coffee there in the winter. So obviously, there's a modification to the Growing Spaces dome. Left this center point open. A lot of people will do center beds. And if I wanted to be really smart, I could put a hearthstone around it to actually hold on to the heat and then release it. So if you shut this down, there's a couple ways to shut down this Blaze King with the knob on the side, and then there's this little crank thing. And when it's fully shut down, this can actually hold a fire for about 28 to 30-ish hours.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So yeah, definitely easily overnight. And if you're running it hotter, not fully shut down, then, you know, you load it probably 2 to 3 times a day.
What kind of modifications, if any, did you have to do for, you know, the outlet?
Basically just a hole, and then we did 2 little boards up there to hold it in. But that was just a quick, I think, couple-hour job, so it's very easy. This is, you know, and people watching this might criticize the choice of chimney, because this is actually, I think it's a triple-walled, I believe. Ideally, it'd be a single-walled. This was kind of put up quickly in the winter when it was starting to snow. It will be switched out to a single wall at some point, which will make it more efficient. Because this hole, you basically want as much surface area as possible to release as much heat into the dome. So the longer the chimney, the more efficient the heat distribution. So
surface coverage of the pond is important to help to prevent algae buildup. One way to do that is with plants, but with a pond of this size, it can be a bit cost prohibitive to fill the entire pond with plants. So a deck is another great option, and it gives you some livable space.
So here we have the north side of the dome where the koi pond is, and these koi actually came from my previous home. I brought 9 koi fish, basically from the Arctic. It was an off-grid property with no wood stove like I have here, and they were transferred in the dead of winter. By far my favorite part of the dome. And it's just a beautiful kit that Growing Spaces has designed, because it's not just for aesthetics. The koi actually obviously poop, create waste, and you can collect that waste depending on which system you use to put back into the plants and basically have your own homegrown fertilizer. I've been into aquariums for many years, and so this is pretty much the most fun part of the dome for me, is the maintenance of the pond. Actually, since I haven't done it today, I can show you guys. We'll unplug this pump, turn these valves, open this, and this is going to be full of roots. So hopefully this is not a permanent thing, but you can see what it's collected here. And that's just part of the pond maintenance. And this is one specific setup. You don't need to have this specific filter. This is from AST, this setup. And essentially what this system does is when I open a valve back here, it concentrates the sludge from the system into that storage tank. And then I could open a valve and just gravity feed the ground or into a bucket or something like that. UV light to keep the algae down. This isn't something that Growing Spaces provides, but it's something that we did, which was just a nice deck. I like smoking cigars, so in the winter, this is the spot to hang out, where it's quasi outdoors, where you can go up. It's warmer, obviously, as you go higher up. The whole idea with the pond is it's a heat sink in the summer, so it absorbs heat, and then it's basically a temperature regulator, and then in the winter, it releases heat. So it's kind of a huge, I think 3,600 gallon, I believe, heat sink. So that's really what sold me on this dome. I'm like, wait, I could have a huge pond aquarium, I'm in. But it's just kind of a meditative experience to feed the koi, and I love it. So
Matt talked a lot about how he has heated this growing dome so that he can make it through the harsh Idaho winters, but there's also a lot of heat during the summer. So these are some of the things that he does to help keep his greenhouse cool.
We don't have the shade up right now. Growing Spaces includes basically 2 cloth shades that I believe kind of go up the middle there, and then you do one there, which would go all the way to my stovepipe. What I'm gonna try to do in this dome is basically train the viney plants up to kind of act as a shade. I don't know if it'll work, but that's my current experiment that I'm going for. So the Growing Spaces come with 3 fans, one there, and one on the other side, and then 2 exhaust fans. So these actually pull in outside air, and then it shoots it up to the top. And without those going, it turns into a super sauna in here without the exhaust fans. So with all of these going at once, and even with the geothermal off, it's actually a very comfortable place to be. The 220 geothermal, you wouldn't want to put your hand over there in that one because there's no screen on it. So that would be a horror movie. It would just, no, I'm just kidding. No, this is, take your hand off. It's a really powerful fan on each side of the pond, and that shoots the air down. And if we had it turned on, if I put my hand here, it would be super cold air, which second to the pond is my favorite thing about the Growing Spaces dome, is that too. So they have all these temperature things built in, which is really cool, even to the point of having under soil ventilation, which is when there's solar, it will actually kick on these motors over there that shoots air underneath all the beds. So that helps to regulate the temperature as well. So there's like 3 temperature regulators at least that are pretty powerful in this dome. A crew dug down, I think it was 6 feet, and did basically a gravel pad and set a series of corrugated tubing down, smaller diameter at the bottom, and then bigger for the 4 points, that the 2 intakes and the 2 exhausts. But yeah, that was most of the build. That was, it's funny, you would think that the longest process is actually building the frame and putting the polycarbonate triangles on, but most of the time was just the foundational prep work.
The geothermal system that Matt is referencing is often referred to as a climate battery or a GAT system, a ground air heat transfer system. This type of a system utilizes the geothermal properties of the soil to help to either heat or cool your greenhouse depending on the season. This type of a system does require a lot of prep work, as Matt has mentioned, But Growing Spaces does provide a miniature version, which we call the undersoil ventilation system. The undersoil ventilation system consists of either a solar or an electric fan positioned somewhere behind your pond, and a corrugated irrigation pipe that runs through your raised garden beds and out to the southern side of the dome. This helps better circulate the air and can also have heating and cooling effects. That feels great. 10 out of 10 would recommend. If you're familiar with Growing Spaces greenhouses, you might be wondering what these straps are for. Let's have Matt explain why these are here.
Yeah, it was super easy planning for the snow load here. Growing Spaces offered, I believe it was like a bracing system if I needed that. But from my experience being through several winters with these domes, what I've found is the snow just comes right off. I mean, it's very rare that it'll just stick to the top, and if it does, eventually it'll just get so heavy that it just sloughs off the very top of the dome. I don't think I'm gonna have any issues with that. And yeah, it's great that Growing Spaces offers that engineering support. This is my 4th Growing Spaces dome, and if I ever move again, which I probably won't, I will definitely buy another one. They make the best greenhouse out there, and each dome I've built, I feel like I've learned more and more. And this is the most exciting one that I've had. So thank you, Growing Spaces, and there's the dome.
It's been so nice to get out of Colorado and get to see a growing dome in a different climate. Here in Northern Idaho, there are lots of different dome owners, and we really look forward to coming back to this area and seeing what Matt does with his growing dome in the future. He does have an Instagram and a Facebook if you'd like to follow along, so you could keep up with the little snippets of the changes that he makes throughout the journey. And as we mentioned at the beginning, he does have a podcast, Mito Life Radio, so feel free to follow along and subscribe for biohacking tips. Thank you so much for watching our video. Please subscribe to Growing Spaces if you'd like to see more greenhouse tours. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you soon.